Hey, it's News from Heaven. Today we're going to be looking at how to become one in a twin flame relationship. This is part one of our three-part series on twin flames or soulmates, or the almost universal urge to find somebody who is this amazing match with you, and then we're growing closer and closer. Why do we seem to want that? Is there something out there? And this is all predicated on the idea that twin flame, this is a phenomenon. If you haven't heard that term, it's all over. Just go on Google. Google will tell you. Look, there's all kinds of articles about it. Google knows people ask these questions about it. There are a lot of videos about it. People are wondering about this. And I think you can get some fascinating insight, depth, addition to this driving force behind it from Swedenborg's Amor Conjugalis. Sometimes translated, conjugal love. Sometimes translated married love. We did a show called Spiritual Marriage about it, but there's this amazing, interesting, fascinating metaphysics of how we feel this potential to come together. This is like, isn't that the Hollywood thing, is like true love? Is there true love out there? And what does it look like? And how could you have true love that actually brings two people together into one person? Sounds good. How would that work? So this is an excerpt from Swedenborg's book, Swedenborg's Marriage Love. And we're going to start in number 177. As the previously mentioned connections take place. How's that for context? So something's going on up here. You can check it out. Read it for yourself. Here's what we're talking about here. Married partners become more and more a single individual. So there we are, delivering on the title. So we've got these two people that are somehow becoming a single individual. But that's not self-explanatory. How do you become a single individual? Would you want to become a single individual? Don't you have less individuals now than you had before? How is this the fulfillment of these deepest longings that we have? This agrees completely with the contents of the sixth proposition in number 162. Yes, we're very thorough, which you may consult, and you, dear watchers, may consult that on your own time, where I explained that connection is brought about gradually, beginning with the first days of the marriage, and that for couples who are in a truly loving marriage, it becomes deeper and deeper to eternity. Remember, Swedenborg is getting all this stuff, not because he's philosophizing in his armchair. I know, it's not a word. But he's reporting, he's having these spiritual experiences, what we would now call out-of-body experiences, going to see the afterlife, and not just that, but taking his scientific brain and coming back and reporting, this is how that stuff works. This is just like we see this amazing structure in the physical world, this is the structure of the spiritual world, and how something like conjugal love or twin flame can grow forever. And I think it's a good point. So how can you be going deeper and deeper to eternity? Don't you at some point hit some kind of barrier? So it's got to be, if these are two rings, if we're talking about them being a symbol of a partnership, it's got to be, what is that, an asymptote? Isn't that what it's called? Where you have two lines which are always getting closer, but never quite touching. So the space between them becomes more and more microscopic. You can't ever say, okay, now we're all the way one, because then you can't be getting deeper and deeper to eternity. It doesn't say, okay, you guys, you find each other and you're able to grow closer, at this point in the timeline, and then by now there's just one person and you've both been erased, and whoever this new person is. No, it's always this partnership growing closer and closer forever. But this, to bring distinct parts into loving union, is the nature of the divine. This same thing is happening between us and God, that we are continually growing closer and closer to God for eternity, but you never become God, because it's about this exchange. And it's the same thing with the rest of the human race. We are learning to love each other more, live in better community, but there's always room for improvement, and that's the joy of life, is that there are others that you can do service to. If we were all just one thing, then you couldn't really express love, that this is what it's all about. Okay, and I would say this thing, if we're talking about it at a time scale, how long is this? As he's saying here, the first days of the relationship, right? This could be the scale here could be 5 days. Yeah, if you haven't seen the show before, you can already tell you're in the hands of a master visual artist here. This could be 5 days. this could be 500 years. It doesn't matter. It's the same scale, because wherever you start, even where it gets tippy close here, the next 500 years, you're growing closer and closer there. So this is moving us towards becoming a single individual. They become a single individual. Yeah, how does it happen? What are the mechanics, man? Can you hit me up? To the degree that their marriage love grows stronger. Okay? Which you could have already maybe intuited that, but that's worth making. So the love has to grow stronger. That's what's bringing people together. It's not just a conveyor belt process. And since in the heavens, I told you Swedenborg is going to explore the afterlife. This love is genuine because of the heavenly and spiritual life angels lead. Two married partners there are called two when they are referred to as husband and wife, but one when they are referred to as angels. Wow, that's a lot. We're going to need highlighting. So, first of all, this heavenly and spiritual, these are technical terms. These are not just synonyms for each other. Heavenly being the heart-centered way that we live. This is motivation first, and then from that, the cognitive or the understanding. Spiritual is the reverse. You understand some great truth and it leads you to live a better life. Both are great, but both lead to a different kind of life, and so lead to different kinds of conjugal love. And two married partners there are called two. This is that same convergence that I'm talking about, the same autonomy plus individuality. So you can talk to them, okay, so there's Joe and there's Sally or whatever. But if you're talking about an angel, what is an angel? An angel is actually this partnership. Swedenborg makes the assertion that all angels were once living here on earth or in the physical universe. And you often, even going through Swedenborg, you think of, okay, I can become an angel. That's what we're working to try to do. It's just a state of mind that you continue to cultivate in partnership with the divine. But the fascinating thing he's saying there is actually, what's an angel? If you really want to say what's an angel, I don't know if this is too small for you, but it's this. These images that we have of twin flames and this supposedly this like great love, that's an angel. The partnership of the two is an angel. And you get eventually to where your hearts and minds, your potential for heavenly and spiritual life are so compatible and sympathetic in that you're both going for the same aim, even though you do it slightly differently, that really you're talking to a unit. And this is how it is in everything else. The more a business is cohesive, the more you can talk to an individual brand, or the more that you have whatever, any kind of group of people, the better together they get, the more you can approach a group as one, the more together a society gets or a community. This is, again, that universal principle. We're moving in towards this oneness with distinct people partnering in it. Okay, now here we get to this like feeling like you're one. So I get you can be close, but what's this? People in a truly loving marriage feel as if they are united into one person, or like one flesh, and that is a biblical allusion there. What does that actually mean? It sounds great. You could definitely make a Hallmark card out of that, but what's that actually mean? And actually, you may be watching and say, "Ew, I don't want to be one. I love my individuality, and I don't want to." So what is it? What are we talking about here? What's it like to feel like one flesh? And look, this again, the Swedenborg experience. This is not to be verified by the testimony of anyone who lives on earth, but only by that of people who live in heaven. Why? We can't get a perspective on true love on earth? Why is that? Because nowadays, real marriage love does not exist among us here on earth. Burn! Major burn. So he's saying that this is even though there's obviously people who love each other, who are working well together. You see, maybe you have, some people who are in a relationship where you feel like, man, they got it figured out. I would love to be as good at relationshiping as that. He's saying it's not really happening. Now, caveat to that, Swedenborg was publishing this in 17-something. I don't remember exactly when this book came out. Yeah, hundreds of years ago. Conditions may well have changed. Also, you see, when he makes a broad, sweeping generality like this, or generalization, I guess is the actual word for that, often don't take it too seriously, because you'll see a counterexample that he provides just coming up. But the statement is worth making, that this is something, just like he was saying that true spirituality was scarce to find at that time, that really because of the human race's tendency toward selfishness and materialism, the kind of conditions to create this real partnership that's not based on something that's just like, you want power or you want gratification or all the negative reasons that people can enter into relationships, it's not so common. So to really make sure you can get a clear picture of it, you got to go look at how it is in heaven and then bring that down and start to try to apply it on earth. Besides, we're encased. This is another reason why it's hard for us to get a true perspective on the soulmate thing or the twin flame thing or the conjugal love thing. Besides, we're encased in coarse bodies. We're talking about this, physical bodies, that dull and dampen any feeling that two married partners are a united person or like one flesh. Wow. So that's a spiritual thing. And spiritual mean your consciousness, according to Swedenborg, is spiritual. So I'm not saying that there's you and then there's somewhere else there's a spirit. The conscious part of us is spiritual. Currently our senses are hooked up into the physical body. This is not an idea that's too uncommon. You find this in a lot of places. But he's saying that the subtle spiritual connection that makes this true soulmate relationship is tough to feel when you're so plugged into a body. And that could be in a lot of ways, but definitely the aches and pains of trying to maintain a body and feed it and keep it from falling apart as soon as you get over 21. It's tough, right? It's tough. Or let's look at how exactly does that interfere with this sense of being united. Not only that, but people in this world who love their spouses only superficially. Okay, so here we have sort of broad conditions, right? Stuff that's not really about our moral or ethical or whatever development. But then this is more about how we approach relationship. Not only that, but people in this world who love their spouses only superficially, not profoundly, don't want to hear this. Why? So they don't want to hear that marriage or relationship can be this spiritual, long-lasting, amazing thing. So why wouldn't you want to hear this? So we don't really know which people we're talking about here, but let's see if you can give us some more clues. In fact, they think about it sexually. Oh, are the kids out of the room? Shoot, man, get them out of the room. They think about it sexually, and this may be like, oh great, religion is saying don't think about that. What else is new? Let's peer into it a little bit. What's he trying to say? Because they think about it sexually because they are fleshly. And I've seen this translated carnal. This is outermost. So what do we contrast that with? And then we'll think through whether this is just the classic religious body shaming kind of stuff. It is different for heaven's angels because they have heavenly and spiritually loving marriages and are not encased in coarse bodies such as we have on earth. So what it seems to me like we're saying in this part here is you can be in a condition where all you're looking for is gratification from the relationship. Specifically physical gratification there. It could be, you're getting financial gratification out of it, whatever it is. When you're in that case, you're just looking for what it means for you. That I think I can enter into a relationship because I'll get some things that I want. That is fine, and it's not necessarily evil, but it's not the kind of thing that can grow and grow and grow to eternity. What can pull you down, where's my amazing drawing? There it is. What can continue to pull you closer and closer to somebody is a union of hearts and minds. This is the desire and interest to grow closer and closer. It's actual love. And it's not that sex isn't a part of that. Actually, Swedenborg got a lot of flack for saying there's an afterlife in which you still have sex. This is Puritan, not Puritan, but very Christian world that he's in at the time. And they're saying, that's not right. Angels you can't. Blah, blah, blah. But he's saying, no, that is. And not only that, but he maintains that that's a super important part of relationships. But if it's the reason, that becomes a problem because it's always going to be a useful part, but it's not It can't be the end game. It can't be why we're here. It's got to be serving this greater purpose of coming together more and more and more, heart, mind, and body. I have heard angels who have lived, and this is exactly why. This is where we're heading. I've heard angels who have lived with their spouses for ages. Some people are like, no thanks. Okay, but if you think about it just like romantically, wouldn't that be sweet? Like, you're growing, you have a better and better relationship for ages, being around somebody for that long. Bear witness to the fact that they feel united in this way. Husband with wife and wife with husband, each within each other, mutually and reciprocally, and actually feel as though they were one flesh, even though they're separate beings. Important to note, we're not taking away your identity. And you're not going to wake up and like, okay, which one of us am I? But that's actually sacred in its own right. And as I said, the means by which we interact with each other and can bring joy. But there's something very distinct here where they're able to, and because, remember before we were talking all about, they're not surrounded in these coarse bodies here, you can actually have a tangible sense of like, we are one. Even though you're walking around and talking and can be, bear witness, this you can hold a conversation with somebody saying, I'm going to tell you something that's not apparent. Like, me and my beau over there, we're one. So that is something that you can actually get to tangibly feel. And this is maybe something you're continuing to work on because this is people who've been, in the cooker for quite a long time. But it moves into a state where you really, this is what it is to be one flesh. They've told me that the reason for this phenomenon, rare indeed on earth. I told you, he's not that serious when he says nobody has it on earth. He's just saying it's rare. And I would like to think it's less rare now than it was then. But it does happen. And it is something that we can be, and stay tuned in this series, it's something you can be working on, even in yourself, with or without a partner. It actually fits into the larger picture of the metaphysics of spiritual growth and what we're here to do and everything like that. So it's there. But it's not like it's everywhere. It is something, it's just like, you think about biologically, that there are some organisms, there are some little species of birds or fish or something that only appear when the ecosystem is really healthy. That they're the first ones to go if you have some kind of disruption or pollution because they're fragile in a way. And I sort of see that as like this conjugal love that he's talking about. That as things get messed up, as we turn towards selfishness and materialism, that vanishes because it's just so vulnerable to that sort of stuff. They've told me that the reason for this phenomenon, rare indeed on earth, is that they feel the uniting of their souls and minds in their flesh, because the soul constitutes the innermost part not only of the head, but of the body as well. The same holds true of the mind, which mediates between the soul and body, even though it seems to be in the head. You think, where am I thinking from? It's here. Swedenborg is saying that the mind is actually this integral part of how do you get from what I was asserting before, that there is a spirit and we're plugged in. I said we're plugged into a body. How? There's a mechanism. Somehow the mind is connecting the will, what you want, which is in your spirit, with what your body does, which is happening right here for you to see. The same holds true of the mind, which mediates between the soul and body. Even though it seems to be in the head, it is effectively present throughout the whole body, which, as they have told me, is why the actions that the soul and mind intend are executed instantly by the body. You ever think about how good the operating system is? That if I want to raise my arm, I can't even tell you how it happens, or where the dividing line is on, I want to do this and I'm doing it, but it's just so seamless. Really good OS. This is also the reason soul and mind actually remain a complete human being after having cast off the body they had in the former world. Since soul and mind are intimately connected to the physical flesh in order to function and to produce their intended effects, it follows that the uniting of soul and mind with one's spouse is also felt in the body as though they were one flesh. So actually, we don't just talk about the body as what we have now, and then you die and you leave your body behind. You don't have a body before, and that the body is a problem. No, this is like our sort of like training body, or this is like you think about rocket boosters that fall off once you get into orbit. You still have a form there. It's actually your spiritual form that is creating and maintaining the physical form that we live in. And there you have everything. You got senses and means to do things, and that you continue to use that as a tool for relationship. So it's not like the body is bad, but we're just saying you're in the first version of it right now. Some of the cool stuff, the cool features you come into when you upgrade into the spiritual body or detach from the physical body affect this twin flame joining, and specifically how you feel like you're one flesh. That is some kind of tangible sensation made possible by the growing together of two people with all the time you need and all the love you need, and this ascension into a spiritual mode of being. And to end you on something weird. When the angels had said this, I heard some nearby spirits say that it was a matter of angelic wisdom beyond their grasp. Swedenborg is constantly surrounded by spirits. He says we're all surrounded by them. Since we have this spirit in our bodies, we're in the spiritual world just like we're in the physical world, because where's the spirit? If you say we got a spirit, where is it right now? It doesn't inhabit a physical plane. It's inhabiting a spiritual plane, and there are people there because there's all these other, we all, when we die, are there. So you're in a neighborhood, a spiritual neighborhood. And he's saying, I heard some nearby spirits say that it was a matter of angelic wisdom beyond their grasp. So all this stuff he was just hearing, the spirits are like, I don't get that. So if you watch this and you're like, I don't get that, yeah, it's hard to get. However, these were spirits who were rational on an earthly level and not on a spiritual one. So who knows where we are in that spectrum, but there's a lot to learn, and the more we understand it, the better and the cooler it gets, or that's the idea anyway. And that's the news from heaven. How'd you like it? If you found this intriguing, join us for part 2. Like and subscribe, because if you subscribe, you'll know when we put out the next part in this series. And next part, we're going to be looking at the union of minds in a twin flame or conjugal relationship. I talk about things getting closer and closer. How's that happen? That's next time. Hope that you can take the ideas from this one and somehow it makes your life better, and it leads you to do something that makes life better for everyone else. That's the point. All right. Thanks for watching. See you soon.